how does Sir Keir defend the idea that, 18,000 quid comes his way and he doesn't declare it? Is that a technicality, or what way would you describe it?
Well, I think it is a technicality. I think what's happened here was that the declaration for that and a couple of other things were a few days late. So there was no suggestion that he was trying to hide them and not declare them. Obviously, he himself brought that to the attention of the registrar. We have a system here in Parliament where you have 28 days from receiving something to fully register that with the registrar. And my understanding is this was a couple of days late. This was some money he's been given to write a book, which of course he's donating the whole amount to charity. But even if you're giving it away straight away, you still have to declare it, and he didn't do that within the 28 days. So I think it is a technicality.
Okay.
But obviously it's something that he'll need to make sure doesn't happen in the future.
Yeah, and, we'll have to wait to see what the investigations bring up as well. But you couple that along with the Durham police investigation, you couple that up with the fact that he was lacklustre at last week's PMQs and what should, quite frankly, have been a gift to the opposition in the wake of that no-confidence vote. And it's no wonder there's dissatisfaction in the shadow front benches. I mean, the front page of the Times today talking about how lots of them have been talking to reporters at the Times, talking about how boring he is. Stop boring everyone to death, the shadow cabinet have been saying, and they're not going to win the next election. Is that were you one of those?
I definitely wasn't one of those, and I don't know who in the shadow cabinet would actually say that. I mean, look, I think Keir would be the first one to say, and he says this to us every Tuesday, which is normally Tuesday morning. We have the shadow cabinet. I'll be going there shortly. That we have to earn the right to be in government, that it's not just going to fall in our laps just because the Conservative Party are going through a very difficult period at the moment as they are, doesn't necessarily mean that people will then just all move straight over to Labour. We have to earn their votes. We can't be complacent about that. And we have to show the country and show the electorate how we want to change the country for the better, and how we feel it needs to change, particularly when it comes to the economy. That just isn't working for ordinary people. That's why we've got the cost of living crisis that we have at the moment, with costs going up and up and up, and people's living standards going down, rents going up, energy. People are really struggling because the economy isn't really fit for purpose when it comes to ordinary working people. And so Keir is the first one to give us that lecture, rightly so, every Tuesday morning, that we can't just sit back and think it's going to fall in our laps, because it isn't, and we have to redouble our efforts all the time and keep working towards that general election and changing the country for the better, as we want to do.
Now, Shadow Culture Secretary, Channel 4, right? It's an Opposition Day debate in Parliament today, and you and your party, you're going to be calling on Conservative MPs to stand up for British values and institutions and vote to stop the Channel 4 sell-off, right? So why do you think people care about that?
Well, probably most people don't care about that, and that's part of the point. I mean, why the government, when we've got all these big issues the country's facing, the cost of living crisis, war in Ukraine, problems with Europe and so on, why is the government pursuing a policy of privatising Channel 4 when there's very little evidence, there's very little support for it across the country or within industry? Channel 4 is this quite unique broadcaster within our world-leading ecosystem that we have here for great broadcasting, and obviously of which GBNews is part of that as well, in that they are publicly owned but they don't cost the taxpayer a penny. And that enables Channel 4 to do what a lot of other channels aren't able to do, which is take risks, invest in British film, which they do on a very large scale. We've got some fantastic British films that have come through Film 4, like Slumdog, Millionaire, Brassed Off, lots of household name films that have come through that. And they're able to back some of our small independent production companies around the country, outside of London, are really very much engaged in this levelling up agenda. And we think that selling Channel 4 off, who's likely to be bought by one of the big American media giants, will put at risk that British programming for a British audience, put at risk investment in British film, put at risk investment in British talent, and this huge amount of small independent production companies around the UK. So it's the wrong policy at the wrong time, and there's a lot of Conservative MPs who share my view on that, and I wanted to give them the opportunity today to show Nadine Dorries and Boris Johnson that they too oppose it.
To see how that plays out today. Look, whilst we've got you, Lucy Powell, I want to get your views also on our top story today, and that is this flight that will be taking off with the blessing, I suppose you could say, of the courts. They haven't stopped it, to Rwanda. The Archbishop of Canterbury, the Archbishop of York, 23 bishops have written in the Times today calling this immoral and something that shames Britain. Do you agree?
Well, we oppose this policy in Parliament. We didn't want it to become legal in the first place. And why did we oppose it? Because we think it's unworkable, which is being now, I'm afraid, tested in many ways through the courts and others. It's extremely expensive. It's going to cost a huge amount of money per refugee that are sent over to Rwanda. It's not going to stop the small boats coming over and people trying to come to this country through such means. And it's unethical and it's not very British. It's just not what we do when it comes to genuine refugees who are fleeing persecution and war. Britain has always provided them a safe home.
I mean, what is the solution then? Because we can't just have an open border and let everyone that wants to come in. I mean, that's the reason that the government, it's one of the reasons that the government has been voted in. There is a clear mandate to try and get a grip of this challenge. It's easy to criticise every solution that the government tries to come up with, but what would be your response, your idea?
Well, they are not doing the solutions that could work. I mean, this is a sort of desperate measure because all their other actions are not working. So, firstly, what we would do is speed up the asylum processing system. There's a huge backlog at the moment, which is partly why people are coming to this country, are here for years waiting for applications to be processed. So those that don't have a right to stay in this country aren't being sent back because it's taking so long to process their claims. Secondly, we'd make sure there are those return arrangements with France, Belgium and other countries, which we used to have. So when people's applications weren't successful, we had arrangements for them to be sent back, and that's not happening at the moment. We wouldn't be cutting the National Crime Agency budget by 20%, the very agency that is there to tackle these smuggling gangs. And we would make it illegal for these gangs to advertise their wares, essentially, on social media, which is where they get a lot of their business from. So, we think there's a lot that can be done here to tackle the issue, and that is not this divisive, expensive, unworkable policy, which I think is more about generating a debate elsewhere, away from the government's woes, than it is actually dealing with the issue at hand.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.